Mm, This is Goku-san DBZ and welcome back to a new collections video. This time we're looking at a combination of the Nintendo Wii and the Nintendo Wii U. With that said, starting off, the only loose game I currently have, which is Wii Sports Resort, which is a game that came with my Wii when I got it back several years ago. Great game. I actually have never played original Wii Sports, only Resort. With that said, awesome, great mini games, whether it's by yourself or with a group of friends. Still, it's a lot of fun, nevertheless. Enjoy the music today from The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Next up, we have Disney's Epic Mickey, which is a great game I highly recommend to anyone who's a fan of old school original Disney history and everything, and Walt Disney himself. You would know the history behind this specific character, as he actually was created before Mickey. But I love this cover art personally, the details and everything. It's a great fun platformer if you've actually never played Epic Mickey. Next up, can't go wrong, new Nintendo or new Super Mario Bros. Wii, which is a great game that I highly recommend to anyone who's a Mario fan, as it's up to a 4-person co-op mode, which adds a little extra intrigue to the actual gameplay. Next we have Knight's Journey of Dreams, which is sort of like a remaster, I guess you could say, basically from the ground up with better visuals overall, to the original classic Knights in the Dreams, originally for the Saturn. So this was one of the first games I ended up picking up on the Wii, as being a big fan of the original game of the Saturn as well. I'm not the biggest fan of the controller scheme or in general of the Wii, but this is a game I do appreciate. Next up, a game that I picked up a while back for I believe 99 cents. Yeah, a interesting Rayman game to say the least. Yeah, it has like mini games and many other things to it. Next up, we have a surprisingly hardly ever hear anybody on YouTube talk about this game, Sonic and the Secret Rings, which is sort of like a Sonic take on like Arabian Nights, which is interesting. It has, as you see, like party games, up to 40 party games are also included, 100 missions. There's actually quite a bit in this game. It's not a super great overall, but I do think it's better than quite a few Sonic games of the era when it came out. Next up, my personal favorite collection of mini games. Though I like Sports Resort, don't get me wrong, still Wii Play is probably my personal favorite. And also I picked this up for like $1 on eBay. And yeah, you get a lot of fun mini games. You have like the classic shooter from Nintendo, original NES, but in 3D and everything. Plus, you can use controller instead of the light gun. Uh, Pull is one of my personal favorite mini games on this list of different stuff. Also, the little Pikmin mini game is pretty cool, and also having table tennis is pretty fun as well. Of course, can't look at anything without a Legend of Zelda game. If you have a Nintendo console, it's expected to have at least one Zelda game on it. And of course, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, which goes back and forth between my either between number 2 or number 3 favorite Zelda game, which it goes back and forth with Link to the Past. Still, I do like the more mature overall tone. I love the art design. It is interesting transforming into a wolf as well. It's unique and different. And I appreciate Twilight Princess. I mean, there is a reason I've bought this game 3 separate times. Now I'm just hoping maybe it'll get released on the Switch, but if not, at least you can play the HD version on the Wii U. But still love the case overall. Next up, we have, of course, like you hear music in the background from, The Legend of Zelda Twilight or Skyward Sword. Of course, this is the version that I have came with also the CD soundtrack as well, which is pretty cool. Personally, I absolutely love the soundtrack to Skyward Sword. It is probably easily in my top 5 favorite Zelda game soundtracks of all time. The music of this game is great. I will say also, I much prefer playing this game on the Switch though, than over the Wii. Still, it is a solid overall Zelda game, nevertheless. Next up, probably the coolest thing that I have is Metroid Prime Trilogy, which comes with the original first 3 Metroid Prime, of course, games, which is great, especially if you're a big GameCube fan. You definitely appreciate this collection. And I love the Steelbook. It's just gorgeous. Next up, we have a guilty pleasure of mine. Personally, a game I defend, and I'll die on this hill and state I like Metroid Other M, and I think it's way too much hate in my personal opinion, as it is one of my personal favorite Wii games. Admittedly, I'm a little biased, though, but I love the gameplay. Also, you have, of course, my personal favorite game, the Smash series, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, which is arguably the best game in the series when it comes to first-person player content. Single player, and that is what I love about this game. And why I feel some of the other Smash games are a bit overrated. Cough, cough. Melee cough. With that said, also it's arguably one of the best, I think, covers of the series. Next up, really needs no introduction, criminally underrated game, Tetsunoko vs. Capcom. Probably the most interesting and probably one of the least well-known of the Capcom crossover games, as you get to play with Mega Man and like Mega Man from the Legend series, which is pretty cool. As well as the fact you could also play with Alex from Street Fighter 3 and many other characters. Plus, even have character from, of course, the Rival Schools games. It's also a blast. The intro cinematic opening cutscene to the game is definitely interesting, and this has very much its own feel and look, art style wise. It's definitely a little different. Probably one of the most least well-known fighting games, easily, in my opinion, is Castlevania Judgment, which is an interesting 3D style game where you can play with characters throughout the different Legend of or Castlevania games. And of course, traditionally, you end up fighting in the end. Yeah, none other than Dracula. So, I actually quite enjoyed the game personally. Second to last of the Wii. Of course, Kina Fighters, the Orochi collection, which includes, as you see, 94, 95, 96, 97, and 98. A collection of solid, great overall games. Last for the Wii, a game I've talked about before a couple of times that I think is underrated, and that is Silent Hill Shattered Memories. And even the Wii version of this game is now starting to go up quite a bit. But it's definitely unique and different from many other Silent Hill games at the same time frame. The unique, interesting new take on the original story is what makes this game unique and interesting from other games in the franchise. Next on to the Nintendo Wii U. First up we have one of the main reasons to actually have a Wii U. NES Remix, which includes Pack 1 and 2. And it's an interesting, unique new take on many of the classic games, such as Metroid Prime, as well as Super Mario Bros., as well as Kirby and other games like Punch-Out and Zelda. Definitely a unique take on classics. Next up we have, really needs no introduction, Super Mario Maker. And this is the best way to play this game. It's definitely far superior to the 3DS version. Definitely, if you're interested in trying the game out, I do highly recommend, because using this game fits perfectly with the gamepad in mind. Also, speaking of great Mario games, Super Mario 3D World, which is a great game of the franchise, and I highly recommend this game to anyone, honestly. It's a blast, a lot of fun. If you enjoy the 3D world-like Mario games, you'll definitely appreciate this, as it is genuinely a pretty good sized game. Next up, a great bundle pack if you get this version. New Super Mario Bros. U with also new Super Luigi U. So, get 2 games for the price of 1. A great bundle in my opinion. You get quite a few hours of good, solid platformer content. Then, the original version of course, Mario Kart 8. I've never been the biggest Mario Kart fan outside of, I think, probably my personal favorite. Sadly, I don't have it. I wish I did. That being Mario Kart Double Dash for the GameCube. But, I mean, this game is okay for what it is, and given I got it dirt cheap. Next up, I already talked about the first, and also, I do recommend checking out Epic Mickey 2. It's still a solid game. It's not quite as good as the first game, but still, I think it definitely holds its own. And yeah, the great thing about this game is the fact it adds co-op. It's one of the things that makes this actually quite a bit of fun. So you and a friend can double team the game. Arguably, probably one of easily the best Donkey Kong games ever released. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Breeze, or Freeze, whatever. Nevertheless, great game. It's a blast, and I actually find it quite fun to play with the gamepad, personally. But this has come from one of the few Wii U apologists and defenders. Here it is arguably one of the coolest platformers that you can experience on the Wii U. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which is awesome. The level designs work so perfectly, in my opinion, with the gamepad. And that's the thing, I wish more games would have used the gamepad's features more prominently. Probably one of the least well-known Wii U games, though, is also pretty fun for what it is, actually. That you got this usually bundled with Star Fox Zero. And of course, you also had Disney Infinity 2.0 and 3.0. And Pikmin 3, which is currently the only Pikmin I personally own, though I did play the original back in the day on GameCube. Miss, honestly, playing the first game. If I ever get a chance to buy it for a reasonable price range, I'll definitely pick it up. But Pikmin 3 is actually a lot of fun. It's a blast. And the fact it would introduce a few new Pikmin with interesting new abilities. Next up, we have Pokken Tournament. Basically, what if Tekken was about Pokemon? Is basically how it is. It's actually a decent overall fighting game. It's definitely interesting. It gives a new feel and taste to the franchise as a whole, which is one of the reasons I actually appreciate this game. It's definitely one of the most interesting Pokemon experiences you can have. Next up, Splatoon. I've actually not played much of this game, in all honesty. I picked it up because it was super cheap. Yeah, it includes like 4v4 online multiplayer, but I never played this game, unfortunately, with no one else, because I personally did not know anyone else who had a Wii U, in all honesty, outside of myself. Speaking of before, Star Fox Zero. Definitely not exactly one of the best Star Fox games, but I do think it's maybe just a tad overhated personally, even though it's not one of the best Star Fox games. I mean, there are other Star Fox games I like less than this, in all honesty. Next, we have, which of course also came with a bundle, which I have off to the side. With the figures given, I got the starter pack, Skylanders, Imaginators. Like I said a while back in my review, I was not actually expecting this game to be as fun as it was, but then again, that's because I also got the Cortex and Crash figures, so that way I could play the game with Crash Bandicoot, which made the game a lot more fun, though it is cool the fact you can get creation crystals and create your own, customize your own character creation, which is kind of cool. Still, I am genuinely surprised. That game was actually quite a bit of fun. Also, sadly, only the base version of the game is available on Wii U, and Justice Gods Among Us is not a half-bad fighting game to play on the Wii U. I mean, it's not the ideal way to play the game, because there are definitely better ways to play this game, but for what it is on the Wii U, it's actually not bad, and it's pretty cheap as well. Now, one of my personal favorite games easily on the Wii U is Hyrule Warriors. Basically, you know, Dynasty Warriors X Legend of Zelda. And the fact you can also play with Ganondorf is pretty awesome. Of course, Anon explain The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Which, of course, this is the only way I've played the game so far. I have not played the Switch version of the game, but from what I have played, honestly, Breath of the Wild on the Wii U, I think it actually plays really well. Now, there's a lot of people want to say, like, there's a definitive way to play this game, and that is strictly the Switch, but at the same time, a lot of those people who say that have probably never even had a Wii U, so they don't even know what they're talking about. But with that said, you can't go wrong playing Breath of the Wild, and the fact it is cheaper on the Wii U for now. If you have a Wii U or thought about getting one, this is definitely one of the top games I highly recommend. But this one I recommend the most. If you get the chance, play The Wind Waker in HD. This is the best way to play The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker as it is, and probably always will be my personal favorite Zelda game. I love the cel-shaded art style and everything, just the way the water looks when you sail on your ship. It's just a blast to play. And because the cel-shaded art style, it's made the game age very well. Trust me, most people would not believe this game is like 20 years old, but it is. Also, The Legend of Zelda, of course, Twilight Princess HD, which is personally though I still like the GameCube version the most, but I will say this is, if you're wanting to go more presentation look and everything, this is probably the best route to go. I definitely recommend the Wii U version over the Wii version. But like the GameCube version, unfortunately, Twilight Princess is becoming quite pricey to collect for, except for the Wii version, as not a lot of collectors or people are really interested in that version of the game. Next, we have arguably, probably, at least of ones I've played, is probably my personal favorite Monster Hunter game, Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. Just know the difficulty on this game can be quite high at times, so just know that in advance. But this is seriously a blast to play. If you want just a good, challenging, like going after giant dragons and other monsters and stuff, this is probably one of the best Monster Hunter games in my opinion. Next up, we have pretty much up there as one of my favorite ways to play Super Smash Bros. Smash 4 on Wii U is awesome. It actually uses the gamepad very well, and that is one of the main reasons I actually do recommend Smash 4, is the fact that the gamepad is used very well with this. But with that said, next up we have, of course, the Wii U version of Tekken Tag Tournament 2 Wii U Edition, which has some interesting costumes and stuff. The fact you can dress up like Mario or Luigi and others is just hilariously funny. But it also gets a special exclusive game mode that's only in this version of the game, which is why I consider this actually the definitive way to play Tekken Tag 2. Just two more after this, but this is, I consider, one of the reasons to own a Wii U, is for this game alone. Xenoblade Chronicles X, as it still remains a Wii U exclusive, which is probably why this game is now going for over $50. And it's still going up. Keep in mind, when I picked this up, it was like $7 or $8. So, yeah, it's definitely gone up some. But graphically and everything, this game genuinely looks great. I mean, this is definitely one of the reasons to actually own a Wii U is for this game alone. Second to last, Bayonetta special bundle version, which also includes Bayonetta 1 with Bayonetta 2. So if you're a Bayonetta fan, or just like games similar to that of Devil May Cry, This is definitely a bundle to look about picking up, as you're getting two solid, great action games in one. Last but not least is a game that actually used the gamepad to its potential and makes this the definitive way to play Zombie. Of course, ZombiU on this version. But seriously, the gamepad works great with the mechanics of the game and really uses the potential. It's said this is one of literally the only games to actually use the gamepad to its potential. But with that said, it is arguably my one of my easily favorite games on the Wii U. If you want a good zombie game, this is a good game overall, I think. At least with the gamepad, anyways. With that said, I'll see you all next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel. Stay safe out there.